Look, if you don't do your job, you get fired. If I'm a carpenter and I build a house and it falls down, no one is ever going to hire me to build them another house. If you're in charge of, I don't know, securing the border of the United States and you have millions of people just waltzing through it unabated, you're not doing your job. But as we just saw from the Senate like a few minutes ago, that doesn't matter. You get to keep your job, and they're going to redefine the Democrats are going to redefine the Constitution to do it. Both articles of impeachment were just completely dismissed by Chuck Schumer because they were deemed unconstitutional. How? I have no idea. No further details. If you work in the government, and I'll be honest, this does actually apply to both sides of the aisle, but it really applies to Democrats. Forget Alejandro Mayorkas for just a second here. Pete Buttigieg, he's gotten like bridges falling down, trains derailing. Just today, they grounded all of Alaska airline flights, but not because the doors were blowing off the planes, but because of some stupid IT outage. We had two branches of government pass a bill called the Inflation Reduction Act. Was inflation reduced? No, it was not. But this is the government. They do all kinds of stupid stuff. And in Alejandro Mayorkas' case, literally nothing at all, which is just as bad. Which is why I keep saying, hey, maybe shutting down the government might be a good thing, because the less they do, apparently the less we get hurt. Specifically when it comes to people like Mayorkas. Not only is he actually not securing the border at all, he's incentivizing people to come here. Him and all of his leftist cohorts in all these blue cities. And then he sits there, he lies through his teeth with his smug look on his face and tells people he's doing his job. Then he just says stuff like, I can't do my job because Congress won't let me. But then Congressman Cloud from Texas, thank God for this guy, he called him out.
Congress removed any authorities from you or the president since you've taken office?
Congressman, the point that you make with respect to Border Patrol agents...
The answer is no. I'd also make the point that you have approximately 20% larger budget than Trump had.
You can't hide from this one, Mayorkas. All these bad border policies have caught up to the Democrats, in an election year, by the way, which is why he has to lean on the same desperate talking points on what the real threat is.
We are in a heightened threat environment, and what we worry about is an increase in what we call domestic violent extremism, the radicalization of individuals already here, driven to violence based on an ideology of hate.
Buzzwords right there. Domestic violent extreme. We all know what that means. He's talking about Trump supporters. He's talking about you and I. And that brings me to the January 6th debacle, which was in front of the Supreme Court yesterday. Federal prosecutors, I think they way overcharged, like hundreds, it's over 300 defendants, with this stupid obstruction charge that usually applies to people who destroy documents. All 5.5 conservative justices were super skeptical about this yesterday.
What does that mean for the breadth of this statute? Would a sit-in that disrupts a trial or access to a federal courthouse qualify? Would a heckler in today's audience qualify, or at the State of the Union address? Would pulling a fire alarm before a vote qualify for 20 years in federal prison?
Oh, good point. You're going to lock up grandma for being allowed into the people's house, mind you, for obstruction, because that somehow impeded the business of U.S. Congress, but not Jamal Bowman, who pulled the fire alarm with the full intent being the key word, of stopping House business.
Would pulling a fire alarm before a vote qualify for 20 years in federal prison?
To the extent that your hypotheticals are pressing on the idea of a peaceful protest, even one that's quite disruptive, it's not clear to me that the government would be able to show that each of those protesters had corrupt intent.
So mostly peaceful protest that actually obstructs and impedes an official proceeding for an indefinite period would not be covered?
Not necessarily. We would just have to have the evidence of intent, and that's a high bar.
They intend to do it, all right.
Well done, Gorsuch. You just ate your Wheaties that day, didn't you? You just single-handedly dismantled the entire argument because, let's be honest, January 6th was mostly peaceful. In fact, the only person who died that day was Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by a Capitol police officer. She was unarmed.